I'm Dr. John. Welcome to the Voyage Clinics Podcast, where our mission is just to bring knowledge and understanding to our communities and our families. Today, I have a really great guest, a good friend of mine, Jonathen Bartholomew. He's a pediatrician and a good friend in the community. And so, yeah, we have lunch a lot and hang out, and we've gone mountain biking together and stuff. And so I thought he would come on and be a guest as a pediatrician for us. So thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, John, for having me. So
tell us a little bit about your kind of journey and your path. And I think you did zoology at BYU and as an undergrad. Did you have Hal Black as your professor by chance?
I don't remember. It's been a few years.
I had to ask because he was our guest last week, and he's a wonderful human.
No way.
He's really old, but he taught there for a million years.
Yeah, I'm sure I had him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after undergrad, then tell us about kind of your education pursuits.
Yeah. So maybe I'll back up way to the beginning. Really fun. I grew up in a small town in Beaver, Utah.
Let's go Beaver. I didn't know
Beaver,
that.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
cool.
kind of Cowtown, USA. But my dad was EMT. Like he worked on the ambulance. And so as a young kid, he would bring home the Annie mannequins, to practice CPR.
Totally, yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, this is cool, man. We're saving lives. And so I think that made a big impression.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that, and then we moved up north and eventually settled down as a child in Springville, Utah, which is just down the street.
Okay.
And my dad was a big scouter, and they always emphasized like first aid and being prepared. And I thought that was cool. I thought it was neat to have a little knowledge to help people when they're in trouble. And another memory that was really stuck in my mind, we dressed up for Art City Days. They have the parade down there. And I had like a little white shirt with a little red tape as a EMT kind of Red Cross guy. And we carried a little stretcher through the parade. But those were like, just like really deep memories that, little things, simple things, but to a child that was impressionable and interesting. And then I would talk with people, physicians through time, and I got really excited about medicine, and I always thought, maybe I should go to medicine. And I don't know if you want to hear the whole story.
No, yeah, this is good. Yeah.
As a child, also I had eyeglasses, right? And so I thought, I'm going to go into optometry school. I crushed the admissions exam. I had an interview set up at 2 schools up in Oregon and down in Texas. I was ready to go. I was going to be an optometrist. But my step-grandfather was an oral surgeon up in Canada and did really well. And my cousin is family practice down in St. George, Howard Chamberlain. He's so good. He's still practicing. So if you're down there, check him out. Mm-hmm. Anyway, they both said, why don't you take the MCAT for fun just to see? I'm like, okay, sure. And so I took the MCAT. I was probably the least prepared and the least anxious because I was just taking it for fun.
Totally.
I had already just finished the optometry admissions test, which prepared me pretty well. It's not exactly the same, but anyway, I went in there. I'm a fast test taker because either I know it or I don't,
Yeah.
And so I finished the sections in like 45 minutes. Everybody else is sweating it out an hour and a half or whatever. It was back in the Stone Ages when they had like, paper and pencil and stuff. Yeah. And I did pretty well. I mean, I didn't crush it, but I was above average, probably B+. Kind of, if you were to give a grade to the MCAT, I don't recall the score, but and a lot of my buddies were going to med school. And so I looked, a lot of them were interviewing in Missouri at now the A.T. Still University. That's the founding school for osteopathy. And I'm like, shoot, I'll just throw my hat in the ring and see what happens. So I was newly married, had no money. I borrowed my brother's car. That's how poor we were. And we rode across country and interviewed in Missouri. And at that time, DO schools, it was a rolling admission. So you interviewed and they let you know. And so I interviewed. A week later, they called me and said, we want you. And I was like, I guess I'm going to med school.
Wow, what a pivot.
Yeah, quite a pivot. And I'm so grateful for that pivot. And so then we finished school, packed up our bags, drove across country in a tiny little white Sentra, and our newborn little dude, he was 4 months old or so. And we just rode out with a a dream and a prayer, and I went out to the middle of the nowhere. If you've been out there, it's Cowtown, USA as well. I guess it's kind of reminds me of Beaver. There's not much out there, just some cows and a small main street. And it was a hard experience, but kind of fun. Like I loved my science classes at BYU, and they were quite rigorous. And so I felt like that prepared me well. And initially, actually, I was interested in eye surgery. I saw some eye surgeries before I went at the Moran Eye Center, and I thought, gosh, this is fun. I could be a surgeon, But I realized I have ADHD, and it was untreated. Still is not treated, but I realized for the amount of energy it would take to be the top of the class, I would lose my family. That's what I had a hard realization. And my cousin, it was really interesting. When he went into medicine, he told me this story. He was up at the University of Utah, and he wanted to be a surgeon. Have I told you this story? I don't remember. Anyway, he was married as well, and he was chatting with the residents in surgery, and they said, "Oh, when are you getting divorced?" And he's like, "What are you talking about, man?" And they said, "Yeah, the divorce rate is like over 90%. I think it was like 97% rate at that time when he was in school." And he's like, "Whoa, hard pass. Like, I did not go to med school to, lose the most important relationship in my life." And so he pivoted and he did family practice, and he's so happy. He delivers babies, he does procedures. He's crushing it, doing really well financially and spiritually in every way. Just living a rich life and living his best life. And he has a beautiful family, beautiful kids, and the fun kind of another kind of a side note is his son will be finishing residency, I think, in this June. And he's going down to join him as family practice.
Where are they? In St.
They're
George?
down with Revere Health in St. George. Just cool. Beautiful family, beautiful story.
That's awesome.
I love the story because it really highlights what really matters. It's our relationships and our families. And so I love it. He was a great example for me. And so I also pivoted, could I have been a great surgeon? Yeah. I have a good eye and a pretty good hand, but the cost would have been too high. Family and kids are more important to me than a specific career. And I've still had a blast. So I, like you said, after med school, I went to residency in pediatrics because doing rotations, you figure out what you enjoy the most. And I had the most fun, and it went by the fastest in pediatrics because I love kids, I love Disney, I love candy, all the good stuff. And I thought, I'm just having a great time, And so I interviewed in the Midwest for cost of living reasons. We wanted to kind of stay somewhere where that's family friendly. We had a couple kids by then. And got accepted gratefully, thankfully, to, it was a combined program with Creighton and the University of Nebraska Medical Center. So it was really a rich experience. Got to hang out at Creighton, got to hang out at the University of Nebraska Medical Center. And they have a children's hospital, standalone, massive children's hospital. Each floor has 130 rooms on each floor. And they have multiple floors for med surge, 3 med surge floors, plus ICU and NICU next door.
That's great training.
Great training. Saw lots of crazy, weird stuff. Super tired. I'm sure you were too in residency. And it was hard. Residency is hard. I'm a hard worker, but I was exhausted and worn out. And but gratefully, we're both persons of faith, and I really feel like that sustained me and my wife, of course, my family. There's super huge support. And again, because of my ADHD that wasn't untreated, I fell on my face a lot. And a lot of people thought, "What are you doing? You're not qualified to be here. What are you doing?" But I like to learn. And so, I just feel like it came together and, learned a lot of things, made a lot of mistakes, but made a difference. And then was really grateful. So I came out, we have a lot of family in Utah. So we came back to Utah, got a little private or a little job at a clinic. I was just employed. But after a while, I'm like, hey, I need to retire, sometime. And they didn't have a retirement program. So I'm looking for a new job. And so I was so grateful for an opportunity to work in Spanish Fork for a year, met some great doctors down there. And then a doctor was retiring basically up in Orem. And so I was acquainted with folks, I'd see them at rounding and stuff. And so they invited me to come up to Orem to take his spot, Dr. Phil Freestone, and he's amazing. If you ever get a chance to interview him, wow.
Cool.
He's a rock star, just a really good person. But anyway, sorry, that was probably TMI. But anyway, I've just loved, I've worked at Utah Valley Pediatrics, which is a great group as well, over the past 12 plus years. And just lots of fun. I tell all my students, I have a lot of med students with me, and you do too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's a practice. We're always practicing. We're trying to do better. With medicine, it's a learning process. You get things right, you get things wrong, but it's a journey along the way, and just having fun, learning, growing, connecting.
Totally.
So anyway, sorry, that's too much. But
No, that's great. I love your story. I love the priorities. I mean, I was similar to you, drove across the country from Nevada to Florida in a Kia Rio instead of a Sentra, but same,
that's crazy.
Same like genre of small, compact,
small
crappy cars. And just slogged it out in Florida for med school and residency.
A lot of
and
work.
like you, I was considering some surgical specialties and things, and settled with family medicine. I don't want to say settled because it's actually quite rigorous, but just for the balance, right? Because I had 3 to 4 kids all through that whole journey, and some things are not worth sacrificing, right?
Yeah.
So you're right. Like to get like a B+ is like reasonable amount of effort through med school. To get into the 90 plus percentile, like what some of these surgical subspecialties require, is exponentially ridiculous. Like it's ridiculous. So for me, I was just like, well, I'm okay where I'm at, and I'll still try. But that's really cool. I love your journey, the passion for caring for people. I feel that kind of emanating from you, and especially in the pediatric space, I think you're so talented there. I want to talk a little bit about pediatrics. Maybe you can just kind of, I think most people understand like it is the caring of children, a specialty that we're primary care specialty in caring for children from birth on throughout. So your journey with a family or a child might start really before birth, or can you kind of speak to pediatrics as like a pediatrician for a family, what that might look like for you? We always have like, what do you call it? A free consultation. You can just, if you want to meet with us, I think it's really important. I tell all the moms that you want to find someone that you connect with and communicate and feel a level of trust, right? Each of us have different personalities, different styles, and they should look for someone that really resonates with them. Mom, especially a lot of the moms care for the children, and dads do too. We have some great dads, but I really tell moms, find someone you like, and if it doesn't work for you, it's okay, move on. You don't have to be stuck in one place. And so anyway, I think tomorrow actually at lunch, I actually have a little free interview thing where the family can come in. It's so cute, just chatting with them. Sure.
She's expecting, and mom and dad are there, and they have questions, and it's their first baby. They're it's kind of scary. It's daunting to have a newborn, and the unexpected, the excitement, the exhilaration, all those feelings, and we just kind of go over basic questions that they have. Talk about our focus is to be available, right? Mm-hmm. And so we have a medical assistant on 24/7, 365. So mom can call, and I tell them it doesn't matter if you have a big concern or a little concern. There's no question too small. Just give us a call, and then I also tell them we have hours, clinic hours. There's always a clinic open every day of the year except for Thanksgiving, Christmas. We used to be open, but some of the younger guys, anyway, I won't go into that. But anyway, but there's always a clinic open 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Sunday. Mm-hmm. I just finished a rotation on Saturday, so I worked 9 to 9:30. It was great. Mm-hmm. And I love kids. I love medicine. And I'm the families are, and I love where they express their gratitude. That's so fun. Where they're like, thank you for being here on Saturday. Like they acknowledge that we're working a little extra, a little outside. I'm sure you are the same way, where people are just grateful when you come in, especially for them. And that just that's satisfying. Totally. To me, that's totally, that just, that's the right word. It's the butter on the bread, the cherry on top. It just makes it all worth it. That's why we do this, is For me, that it's more than money, just that satisfaction of helping people meet where they are. So anyway, we talk about everything. We talk about just some baby concerns, some mom concerns. I don't know if I might share a few strategies I share with them, or
I do want to hear that.
Sorry.
No, I want to kind of break it down as maybe common things that you discuss, like for the newborn stuff, and then because I do the same, right? Like I'm caring for some of those younger formative years, and I'd love to talk about kind of like pearls that you'll give to parents for their newborn, and then maybe as they kind of age into those wellness visits, those 2-month, 4-month, 6-month. And then common things that you might see in those age groups that we might need to put like some exclamation points on.
Yeah.
And we can just go back and forth because I have some cool stuff too.
And you just tell me.
You just share whatever you kind of talk about. That'd be great.
Yeah. So to be a successful mom, because really a lot of that first year's care falls on mom, and dads help out too, but realistically they're nurturing that baby, they're taking care of them, or they have someone else taking care of them. And so to be a successful mom and a successful dad and a successful parent group, you really have to prioritize you. And a lot of moms don't think about that. They're worried about, how do I take care of the baby's diaper? How do I take care of the baby's skin, which is so beautiful and wonderful. But just like the airline analogy, you got to put the oxygen on you first. We talked about that a lot for mental health, wellness, because if you're well, you can take care of the tribe, right? And same with ourselves as physicians, as dads, as moms, as partners. We have to invest in ourselves first. And then, meaning we have to fill our cup and then our cup spilleth over, right? We can share, of the abundance. So I tell them a couple of things. One is you need a team feed. It doesn't rely just on the mom, right? And classically in a traditional mother-father relationship, the mom shares almost 100% of the burden, right? But dads can totally help out. So that we have twins, right? And twins are an extra level of
That's next level.
That's next level. Anyway, for us to survive, because we had 6 kids, the 2 cabooses are the twins, it was just too much, right? So I tell all the moms this. What you want to do is you want to team feed the night feeds, right? And this is the secret sauce. This is how to be a successful mom and dad. It's okay to use formula. Think of it like a protein shake, right? Like we do protein shakes for lifting. Same thing for the baby. Extra vitamins and protein. Breast milk is best, of course. So we want to definitely emphasize breast milk. But you know this too. Formula takes longer to digest. And so say maybe mom wants to go to bed early, right? So you decide as a couple what works best for you. So maybe mom goes to bed at 8 and she just goes to bed. Lights out, door closed. And baby is with dad, and dad can hang out with baby, play with baby, study on the laptop or whatever, work, school, whatever. And then at midnight or 11, or watch sports or whatever dad's into, dad can give baby a bottle of formula until they're full, whatever formula works for their tummy, or you can do pumped breast milk too, whatever. Sure. It's totally fine, whatever. Yeah. But I found that with formula, it takes about 4 hours to empty the tummy, right? And you know that too. Yeah. So if dad gives a bottle of formula at midnight and then tucks baby in bed, now he goes to bed, baby's not going to wake until 4 a.m. Mom just slept 8 to 4. That's 8 hours of sleep, man. Who does that, right? Mm-hmm. And so as a caregiver, mom, dad, or whoever, partner, if you sleep at 8 hours, hello, good morning. Yeah. You just feel so much better.
For sure.
Your body can heal, and there's a lot of benefits. If your body's rested, you're going to make better breast milk, right? So you're going to have better breast milk. Your immune system's going to be better. Your stress levels are going to be better. You're going to heal, if you had a C-section or a tear, you're going to heal so much faster.
Mood, postpartum depression.
Just drops, Yeah. And then, so that's the secret sauce 1. Secret sauce 2 is the happiest moms are the moms that work out. So once your doc gives you the green light, go to the gym or whatever your space is. If you love to lift, if you love to run, if you love, take it easy, of course, but the strong moms and the happy moms work out. You have to invest. Mm-hmm. And then secret sauce 3 is, again, moms have that massive, we've talked about this, I think, too, massive dose of oxytocin, right? Just boom, huge oxytocin. And you want to be a mama bear, right? You just want to hold and nurture that baby. And so you're just physiologically, you want to care for that infant. But again, you have to remember, okay, I need to take care of myself. So I have something to give. And so one of the physician moms, she's a podcaster, I'll have to find the name, but anyway, she talked about how she takes her calendar, and we have to be intentional, right? And she would block out 2 hours every day. Did I tell you about this at our lunch conversations?
Yeah.
Anyway, she would block out 2 hours every day where she'd make her list of people, whether it's a nanny, someone, a babysitter, dad. I mean, it's his job too, but sometimes we compartmentalize and we don't think about that. Caregivers, friends, family, maybe community, church members, they love babies. Everybody loves to hold a baby. And so as a mom, if you can block off 2 hours every day for just some headspace where you're like, I don't have to worry about baby. I know baby's safe. Again, that's so good for your mental health because, okay, maybe I need to take a cat nap. Maybe I can shower. Maybe I can go to the gym. Maybe I can go do something, go outside, go on a walk alone just to get my headspace and give that free. Anyway, I think if moms do those 3 things, wow, just a game changer. All the moms that do that, they're so happy.
I love it.
Sorry, I'm going on.
Yeah, no,
anyway,
absolutely. Absolutely. Sorry. Following up, as a family doc, we will often deliver the baby and then take care of baby plus mama. Yep. And so we'll see them and follow up on mom and make sure she's taking care of herself and then, follow up on babies and make sure they're doing good and growth and all that. I want to speak to the developmental. I love the putting yourself first, putting the oxygen mask on yourself first. But let's get into kind of the baby and what are some tips and tricks and pearls for some of those. In pediatrics, you usually see a baby like 2 days of life, and then a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, and then 2, 4, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 24. 2 years of life. That's the first 2 years. Yeah. And so at those visits, we often are kind of checking out these babies, right? We're watching them for growth and for, any signs that there might be something awry, like if there's, different things and some, maybe you can kind of share with us a little bit on that first 2 years and what are some of the tips and tricks and secret sauce, as you said, some just little things in there. And then we'll move on to the next age group and we'll kind of go into it that way.
Yeah. So if it's okay to highlight a few things, development and other things too. So the first thing, one thing we're looking for and screening for is autism. We know there's increased awareness of autism in the community, and we want our kids to receive any help they need, right? So one of the biggest things is eye contact. And that in the first month or two, they should be having some eye contact with you. If they're not, call your pediatrician, call your family practitioner and say, hey, my baby's not looking at me. They're 2 months old and they're not looking at me. Huge red flag. They should be doing some eye contact and starting to follow with the eyes. That's huge. Also at 2 months, a reciprocal smile, social smile, and cooing. So those 3 things are huge. So if they're not doing that, eye contact in the first 2 months of life, cooing, social smile in the first 2.5, 3 months of life, huge red flag. Okay, are we okay? Is the baby able to see? And another thing too is tone. Tone's really big. And I've seen that in the past. Muscle tone, right? Thank you so much.
They're not singing yet.
Yeah, not yet. Well, some of them do. Yeah. Anyway, but as you know, a baby when they're born, they have good tone. What does that mean in English? Their hands are kind of closed and they're doing the little Arnold Schwarzenegger, they're showing the muscles. I love baby muscles, the baby deltoids. They have great deltoids and biceps. And also their legs are usually kind of flexed, right? So their arms aren't extended at their side. Their hands aren't open. That's not normal. And also, they do have a little tone in their neck. When you're holding baby, burping them, they should lift the head back a little bit, But if you're they're not really lifting their head back, their hands are kind of open. I had one child, and the hand was almost like that, The hand was not closed; it was out. And the mom was so great. She noticed that and said, "What do you think about that?" And I'm so glad she noticed that. And we got him in with physical therapy and I think on that one, we also had them see neurology too, because that's a big deal, a big red flag. Yeah. And then if I might step back to, I don't know if we want to talk about it now or later, but if a baby has a fever in the first 3 months of life, big red flag, right? We talked about, we know this, that mom's antibodies transfer to baby. So baby kind of has your mom's immune system, passive immune system, at least for the first 3 months. And so it's uncommon for babies to have a fever. What's a fever? A fever is 100.4 rectally. Don't use the forehead thermometers. They're garbage. Well, it's hit or miss. They might be accurate. You don't know. We want our patients to call us if a baby has a fever, and we probably are going to send them for some lab work because we don't want to miss a serious bacterial infection. Mm-hmm. So we're screening for development, like the autism, neurodevelopment, muscles, and things like that. And then I don't know if you want to walk through like some of the baby steps, or like the 4 month and 6 and 9, or you want to.
Sure, we can go some of that.
Or
sure,
where do you want to go?
I was thinking some of the like common things that will start developing plagiocephalies and things like that. Some of the the funny looking heads and things that babies kind of stuck on one side and their head starts to kind of be a little skiwampus, and when should we be looking for those kinds of things? And stuff.
Yeah. So as we know, when the baby gets squeezed through the birth canal, sometimes the head looks kind of different. It can be very, very interesting. And if a baby favors keeping their head to one side, gravity is, as you know, is going to flatten part of that skull, and so cosmetically it doesn't look good, and it affects like the alignment of the ears and everything else. And so we want, kind of like braces help straighten our teeth, we want to make sure that our head shape is nice and looks good, just for appearance and for other things too. And so, like you mentioned, if the head is asymmetric, that's a great idea. I know you are really skilled in like the musculoskeletal, and they can pop in and see you, and you can, do some adjustments, do some stretching. Do you do that with your patients? Yeah, all the time. Yeah. So here's a little shout out to you. Get in, if your baby's head's flat, let's see John, let's get that neck stretched out a little bit so we have full range of motion. We want the baby well done on all sides, right? Tummy time is helpful too, where they're stretching their neck. And they practice what to do when they're on their tummy, because they'll roll hopefully around 4 months, 4+ months. And when they roll over, if we've done tummy time, that helps a nice head shape, but also protects them so that they know to turn their head to the side. So they get that muscle strength and memory, so that they're not surprised when they roll over. So what else do you want to talk about?
Helmets, like when do we kind of implement that? And when should these mamas be concerned about, I think my kid might need a helmet. We've done the stretching, we've done all those things, and it's still, it did correct a little bit some of the abnormal head shape, but it maybe not quite awesome. And so like, at what point do we say, okay, the head should be addressed with a helmet between this month and this month? That kind of thing.
And I'd be curious to hear what you have learned or what you like to do. So usually we're shooting around 5 to 6 months, but maybe 4 months, depending on how severe it is. And then they do free evaluations at the helmet clinics, which is nice, if you just want, an idea. And then you can also ask about cost. I don't know if we want to talk about clinics around here that do that.
Sure, yeah.
Hanger Clinic just joined Northwest Orthotic.
Oh.
They merged.
Oh, cool.
And they're up in Orem. And so they got a great little clinic there. If you're worried about your baby, check with your provider, and then maybe pop over for a free evaluation. They'll measure it. They'll tell you how much it's off. There's also another clinic you probably have heard. I'm sure you've heard of Cranial Technologies up by IKEA. You can grab some meatballs on the way over there.
Yeah.
And their helmets are kind of cool because they're not as bulky. And so if it's hot summer, it might be worth a few minutes drive. They both do a good job. And so 4 to 6 months, probably touch base with somebody. And again, it's kind of like braces. You wear them for a short time, maybe a few months. And a lot of the babies make really good progress.
Yeah.
You've probably seen the same thing.
Totally.
And it's so nice to have a good head.
For sure. And there's different kinds of like these head shapes. So there's like the parallelogram where it kind of shifts to one side. There's like a squished one where it's like squished in. There's like an elongated one. And so all those things we kind of routinely check for during these kind of visits and stuff. So so that's really fun. As we go along, let's see, like, what are some of the really common things that you see and things that you want to kind of tell to parents? Like, okay, now we're into 6 and 9 and 12 months. maybe parenting tips and tricks, or even just little snafus that you might see along that journey that you very, very commonly kind of address with mamas?
Oh yeah.
And dads.
One thing I love is the coolest thing. This is kind of an aside. So around 4 to 6 months, you can start baby food, right? And for years,
this is a good point. Yeah, this is a good
for
point.
years, we have the dogma of, and in medicine, there's a lot of dogma, and it doesn't have a lot of research behind it. And you probably know the story better than I, but from what I know, anyway, we would always tell the kids, start peanuts at 2,
Yeah.
And that was horrible advice.
Horrible advice.
And we had skyrocketing allergies to nuts and other foods, and it was just awful. And they looked around the world and they're like, well, wait a second, Israel has a really low peanut allergy, like the lowest in the world. And everybody was confused. What's up with Israel, And anyway, you've probably seen this at Trader Joe's. You can get those peanut puffs called Bombas. Have you seen those or tried those? They're actually really yummy.
Okay.
You can go over to Trader Joe's right now and buy some. Anyway, it's almost like a Cheeto, but it's a peanut corn puff.
Okay.
And they would just give this to their kids, In
Israel.
In Israel, yeah. And so they're just pounding the Bombas. They're actually really yummy, and they actually have some protein in them. I don't know how healthy they are, but they taste good if you like peanuts. Anyway, so they're just pounding the Bombas, and they had the lowest peanut allergy in the world. And so they're like, wait a second. And what's the name of the study? I'm trying to remember. My brain wants to say, my brain wants to say, I don't know if this is right. I'll have to back check it, but LEAP study. I don't know if that's right. Okay. But anyway, they did some cool study. What did they do? Around 6 months, they took a slurry of, I think it was peanut powder, and mixed it with a little water. And they took several groups of kids. They gave the one the peanuts, the other one they just had the control group. And it reduced peanut allergy by 80%. Yeah. Isn't that, whoa. Yeah. So we've been saying the wrong, just garbage for years.
And we would tell them to avoid soy. We tell them to avoid all these things. Yeah.
So one of the most important nuggets and, just the secret sauce is if you don't have any family allergies, it's always good to look at your family. What's going on in my family? If dad has a severe peanut allergy, see an allergist, right? Of course. Yeah. But if you're like, no, we're good. No food allergies. Great. Start your baby if you want to start when they're showing signs of readiness, right? So this, they're reaching for food. They're like looking at your plate. They're really excited. They want a piece of the action. Just whenever they're ready and you're ready as a parent, you can start baby food. If they're starting at 4 months, you probably want more softer pureed foods, and everything's fair game. No honey till a year, that. Honey, there's a risk of botulism, right? So, anyway, so they avoid honey till a year, of course, that. And then whole milk, we don't want a lot of whole milk until about a year. Now, if grandpa wants to slip them a little ice cream, that's fine, right? Yeah. You can do eggs, yogurt, cheese, soy, peanuts, or, peanut powder or peanut butter, maybe watered down or mixed in fruit so it's not sticky, so it's not a choking hazard. And then some moms really love baby-led weaning. You probably have talked about that. What are your feelings on that? I don't know. Have you thought about that? Yeah.
I don't have a strong opinion there. I
leave it to moms, whatever they want to do. There is an increased risk of choking, so really helpful to take some basic CPR classes. You can get them online through like Red Cross or whatever, or in your community. They might have one at your community center. So it's really good to just get CPR training, and actually just in general, I think it's a great life-saving skill. But anyway, so you can do a table food. If they're ready, bring them to the table. Just be careful about steak. I had a boy choke on steak the other day. But anyway.
Are you familiar with there's like a slurry that they're encouraging mamas to start giving as they introduce foods, and it has peanuts and a whole bunch of other things.
Yeah, that's so cool.
What is it called again? I forget.
I think that there's one that's called First Foods. That you can still buy it. Like the company isn't marketing as heavy in the United States, but you can still get it. Yeah. But First Foods or something like that is great because it's got everything: shellfish, fish,
has all peanuts, the things that we've been telling kids not to do until they're like 10.
If you do it at 6 months, game changer. Yeah. Reduces allergies because 4 to 6 months, maybe a little plus, is that window where the body's like, I'm okay. This is food, not foes, Yeah. But once you pass that window and you wait till 2, everything's an enemy now. Right. So really important to get a lot of variety in there. So anyway, sorry, what else do you want to talk about?
Well, I think that speaks to kind of the thymus gland, right? This gland that's like creating immunity, creating allergies, creating all that. And then the processing of those like Langerhans cells along our GI tract, kind of like processing and learning and understanding like what consumption is good and gut biome and all the things, like
all those
getting
things
it all going.
Yeah, that's another tip with colic. A lot of babies are fussy from 2 weeks up to about at least 6 weeks, or up to 3 months sometimes. So 2 weeks up to 3 months can be a very fussy period. So just expect that. They're trying to get used to the eating and all that. And it's it's safe if you have a full-term baby with no problems or immune suppression. You can do probiotics. You can do baby probiotics if you want to. Do you ever recommend that or do that? I don't know.
A little bit, yeah.
So if you want to do that, you can.
There's some infant stuff out there that's pretty reasonable. What about just nutrition in general? I find like America is hard for nutrition just in general from all age groups.
You mean the SAD diet, the standard American diet?
Yeah, exactly. That's a good word for it. It's super sad. Are there healthy like snack things that you recommend to folks? Like, it's just really hard. I think I've been there with my kids, like trying to find them reasonably healthy snacks to for trips or whatever.
Totally.
Outside of like meal prep and preparing all your own soups and foods, like it just becomes really challenging.
Yeah. So it's easy to just grab the cheap stuff. Often is less healthy. If it's white, it's probably not healthy. I mean, it's okay if you have a little white rice, but yeah, I was thinking about that. I love chocolate, right? And there's, have you had those Utah, the mint truffles?
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, they're so good. It's a guilty pleasure. But anyway, if you think about it, like one of those bad boys has about 60 calories in a tiny little square, right? 60 calories. And how much does an orange? I was just at Costco today and bought a bag full of oranges. How much is one orange? For a medium orange, it's about 60 calories. Think about that. You have a really good size orange with all that fiber, vitamin C, all the good stuff. And then you have a little chocolate. And chocolate's great. We know the benefits of dark chocolate, and I tell the moms, knock yourself out. Grab some chocolate if you want. But the stuff, have you seen that one that says eat this, not that? There's like a magazine or book that has that. And so, can we have chocolate? For sure. Like life should be enjoyed, but do we need chocolate every snack? No, we don't, right? And so I tell people I love sugar, but we don't want to eat it all day. And so, if you can substitute like an orange or a clementine. Clementines are a little more accessible. They're not quite as intensive. So we want fruit, fiber, protein. We've talked about the protein. It's so important to get protein in our diet. So, a cheese stick is great. That's a great source. So an orange, a cheese stick, that's very filling and healthy. The cheese stick's got the fat, the protein that's going to curb the appetite. Nuts, a handful of nuts. Walnuts are the very best, but I don't know, what nuts do you like?
I like all those things. And it's just a challenge. I think we're seeing more and more insulin resistance in kids.
Yes.
Things that we never used to see. I think we're, as a whole society, we're moving less and we're eating more calorie dense foods and more processed foods. Yes. And it's creating this, our epidemic in America is obesity and diabetes, right? Yeah. And it is directly a product of our consumption. And so maybe we can speak to health span, lifespan, insulin resistance, some of those kind of bigger hurdles. And then I want to circle back on some parenting tips and tricks. I think there's some good sauce in there too.
Yeah. And you are a good example of like living well, exercising, eating well. I think again, just stepping back, like, what is the ideal diet for adults, right? To reduce insulin resistance. I love, there's so many specialists and, just people that are very knowledgeable in that space, because really that's, if you have insulin resistance, you have inflammation because the circulating glucose is higher. It's like sandpaper to our veins.
Totally.
And our veins are everywhere, in our brain, in our heart, in our skin, everywhere there's veins and arteries. And so if we want to live well and long, we have to, one, exercise. We talked about that, right? You exercised last night, you exercise every day. Today's my day off, so I worked out for about 2.5 hours. It was so much fun. I love it. Nice. Anyway, so how can we live well? One, insulin resistance, exercise. Exercise is that secret sauce. It's just like giving formula at midnight. If you exercise, and like I said, the happy moms are the ones that work out, because, we've talked about this before. There's all these hormones that are released that just give so much benefit to our bodies. We use the word endorphins, but there's so many benefits. And I was listening to a podcast, actually, well, not a podcast, book that you recommended, Spark. Was it? Yeah. Beautiful book. If our listeners have a chance to look at that, grab the audiobook, grab it online. Just a brilliant piece. And just so good. Like he talked about how, well, I have ADHD, right? And yeah, Spark, just so fun. And he said that there are medicines for that ADHD, and I'm grateful for them. They're a great tool. I have a lot of kiddos in our clinic that are on those medicines because they do need that extra help. But he said the interesting thing is like they'll boost one thing globally, but if you exercise, you probably remember this from the book, it's like taking a little bit of like a SSRI, like a anxiety depression medicine, because it improves your serotonin level. But it also is like taking a stimulant because it increases your epinephrine, norepinephrine, and a little bit of your dopamine. Yep. So it's like the perfect package.
It treats natural. ADHD.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And actually, I try to work out every morning before work because I noticed I'm calmer. And with kids, you got to be calm.
Yeah.
So as a mom, I think that's so huge. Like if you can work out a little bit in the morning, it may not be possible, right? Get through the hard stuff. And then once your baby's sleeping longer, like you talked about, I recommend sleep training at 6 months or when the baby's nice and chubby, so they can make it through the night. But yeah, it's okay to sleep train them so that you can wake up and work out a little bit in the morning.
Totally.
Go on a good walk, brisk walk. Maybe you have some equipment at home, like a bicycle at home. I love Facebook Marketplace, man. You can save so much money on there. But I have a cycle at home because I don't like going. I don't like the cold, and so I wake up, I roll downstairs, jump on the cycle, and you can do two things at once. Like if you enjoy, it's called pairing. I love that principle. Where if you're like, I hate exercise, but I enjoy like a movie or whatever, you can open your laptop and set it on your bike, or if you like music, listen to music. So you can do two things at once. Like maybe you're in school and you have to study for school. Boom, you're reading your article while you're cycling. Yeah. And the ideal for women, we talked about 30 minutes for women, 5 days a week for cardio. And for men, it's 40 minutes a day, 5 days a week. And we talked about this before. I love it. To me, this is the real secret sauce. If you do that every day in and day out, of course, life's crazy. But if that's your general habit, it's associated with an increased health span and lifespan of about 10 years. Yeah. And I always say this, and I've said this before, things in motion tend to stay in motion, right? So I would totally believe it. So if we want to live well and live long, we have to stay in motion. And anyway, sorry, I'm just going all over the place. But,
no, John Ratley is the author of that book, Spark. He's a physician as well. And it's super, super interesting, both from the physiologic standpoint with combating insulin resistance, diabetes, but also psychologically as well. And you mentioned he has a whole chapter on anxiety and how exercise actually treats anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
He talks about how it treats ADD. Like some of the medicines that we treat ADD with, they increase norepinephrine and dopamine, right? And so like, exercise does that too. And for years, I think we all, if we weren't born with ADD, we'll be neuroprogrammed to have it in this life with our in our society. We just create ADD brains, neuroprogramming. So if you're struggling in those spaces, exercise, just exercise and go hard, play a sport, play pickleball, have fun with it, exert yourself, sweat a lot, and you will notice like a calming and then also a focus and then an ability to get things done. And I think the medicines are fine and they're appropriate in a lot of ways for a lot of folks. But boy, if we want to really pursue this, it sounds silly, but like we'd be out of jobs. It'd be sweet. Everybody just exercise 40 minutes a day. Like,
well, and I had the epiphany, like my son is struggling in school right now with focus. ADHD is very impulsive. And when I was listening to that book this morning while I was jogging on the treadmill, I'm like, oh my goodness, like he needs this really bad. I get so busy and we all get busy, of course. But I realized like I need to get him up early because one of the things he talks about in that book, Spark, is a school that where they did PE as their first class. And do you remember that?
Yeah.
It was so cool.
Super interesting.
Cool. Anyway,
they're kids, like the most fit school in the nation, and they're crushing
it.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm like, I just had that epiphany, and I thank you for that recommendation. I'm like, oh, this is what my son needs. I need to do that now. So that's my goal. I'm going to work on that this month. I'm not going to be perfect, but I think I'm going to try to arrange my schedule where I'm going to have to wake up a little earlier so I can get my cardio in, because I am religious about that. I've been doing it since COVID. So the past 6 years, I just feel so much better. I've lost like, I gained it back with muscle a little bit, but I probably lost 45 pounds. Well, I lost like 60 pounds and then I've gained some muscle back. So
Cool.
I've lost about 45 pounds since COVID because I've started doing these things myself. I want to practice what we preach, right?
Yeah.
But now I think I want to grab him and take him to the rec center at 7 and just have him work out hard for like a half hour,
Yep.
just play in the swimming pool
Yeah.
or go on the treadmill. I just need him. I need him to be happy. And exercise is the key for that. So
Totally.
Thank you. That was cool. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
What else do you want to talk about?
No, that's super, super good. I'd love to try to touch on a few tips and tricks for parenting. I think it can be really challenging as a new parent or even as a seasoned parent. Like, how do we do this thing right? And I think our first child, we all kind of are extra.
Our experiment child.
We're all a little bit extra with our first child. And so maybe we can speak to first-time mamas or papas, and I think a large part of it is just being calm and like we usually calm down with second child, and we're much more calm with third or fourth child. Like we're like more reasonable parents.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if you can give us maybe some of your top tips and tricks and little pearls that you give to parents as they embark on their parenting journeys. That'd be great.
Yeah. So right from delivery, it's really important to understand your physiology as a mama. It takes about 3 to 5 days for your milk to come in. So, basically there's not much there. There's the colostrum, which is gold, and that has the antibodies and all that good stuff.
Yep.
But there's not a lot of volume there. So it's very common that second day for the baby to be really fussy because they're hungry. Now that's good because they want to breastfeed, but it's bad because if you don't know that and you don't know the secret sauce, it's okay to use formula. Or at some of the hospitals, they have pasteurized breast milk, And so like at the Intermountain hospitals, like American Fork, Orem, and Utah Valley, and I think Spanish Fork, they have pasteurized human milk that you can use, and it's easier to digest, of course. But so it's okay, watch your baby's cues. That's the best way to feed. Don't wake them up. They'll wake you up. That's another thing too.
Yeah.
The nurses are so good. They're like, wake up every 3 hours. You can't do that. It's not sustainable. I have moms that come in and they're just haggard. You probably have the same thing.
Yep.
So listen to your baby, let them sleep. And then that second night, if your milk's not in, give them a bottle of either the pasteurized human milk or formula so baby's comfortable and you can rest, right? So that's key. And again, let them sleep. Only feed them if they want to eat.
Yeah.
It's okay to use pacifiers. They actually reduce SIDS, right? So pacifiers are safe. That's fine. And then just, I don't know if you want to touch on that really fast. They recommend baby goes to bed on their back to reduce sudden infant death syndrome or SIDS. Also, an overhead fan reduces SIDS. Smoking or not smoking is super important to not. That reduces SIDS to not smoke. And then also we don't want anything in the bassinet or crib except for baby, a firm baby mattress. The nursery gives the best example. They just have the mattress, maybe a little thin cotton blanket that's tucked in around the mattress, and then they have a thin cotton blanket around the baby. I don't like those, I won't use the brand name, but anything that has a lot of polyester and feels super thick and fuzzy, don't use those. I mean, you can use them for pictures, but I worry about breathing. If that covers your baby's face, do we want to do that? No.
Right.
So you want a thin cotton blanket. This one family was so gracious. They were kind and gave us these beautiful little blue blankets for the twins. And they were kind of that, how would you say that? Like a woven lattice pattern. And they were cotton. And it was beautiful. Like we felt safe if they kind of pulled it up over their face because they could breathe through it. So it's super important to be thoughtful about your blankets when they're little. And then nothing else. No stuffed animals, no pillows. And you want the surface to be flat. Now, if your baby is spitty and if it's okay with you and your doctor, I think it's helpful to elevate the head of the bed up to about 15 degrees if your baby's spitty. Just make sure that everything else is firm, nothing else in there. And just a little tiny tip. You don't want a cliff, right? They're going to slide down, but just a slight 10 to 15 degree lift may reduce spitting where baby can sleep better and you can sleep better, right? And then So those are just some little tips there.
Can we speak to screen time?
Oh, yeah,
Because this
screen
is
time.
probably the worst pandemic ever.
Yeah. So
the whole world is the technology pandemic, and what is that doing to our developing children's brains? And are there ways that we can reasonably deal with that as a society? I think we need to kind of look at that, the implications of overuse of screens for our children in their formative years, and then again in adolescence as we give them these smartphones, and the exponential growth curve of development that happens in these infants and toddlers is incredible, and you see a growth and change every single day, and then it kind of levels off just for a time. And then in puberty, you have a very similar exponential growth.
Yes.
And those two times tend to be fraught with some screens. And so
totally.
we have to be a little more sensitive to screen use in those times. Yeah. I think the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends like less than 45 minutes of screen time for children. Any other tips and tricks with screens? Like, what are you seeing there? And then, do you have any like boundaries as far as like parents kind of talking about it and discussing it? I just kind of have an open conversation about it, and I just bring it to their awareness. Like, hey, this is a thing that we're kind of noticing. It wasn't there as much when we were kids, right? Because we didn't have a smartphone in every hand or an iPad in every room, or and so it is something that's kind of new, and we're kind of really kind of understanding the implications of screens and brains and
100%.
what that does. Like, super fascinating.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So two things. So I have I don't know if you have this too. I have a little handout that says 95210, right? So it talks about 9 hours of sleep for adolescents, 5 fruits and vegetables, 2, no more than 2 hours of screen time. I use the word entertainment screen time because our adolescents are doing they're doing their homework on the Chromebook or whatever. And then 1 is 1 hour of play every day at least. And so I try to practice what I preach on that. And then 0 sugary drinks, right? Sugary drinks it's fun as a treat occasionally, but it's really toxic, not healthy, right? Again, we talked about the insulin resistance. So back to screens. It's something I need to work on myself. This is an area I have a lot. I need, just to be transparent, I need to work on that a lot too. With twins, it's exhausting, and I think we fell into some bad habits, or me, just like, you're done, you're just so done. I was listening to this, a little reel or podcast. It was great. Where Brene Brown, do you know
Brene Brown?
Brene Brown,
Power
baby.
Vulnerability.
Let's
go.
I love her.
Let's go.
And I love it.
Thanks for being vulnerable. I was about to say that.
But I love her because she just says it how it is. It's so good. It's refreshing to be real, right? Yeah. And she would come home. I don't know if you've seen this, and she would say, "I've only got 20 today. I've only got 20% today." Because she's tapped out. She left it all in the field, right? Yeah. And then her husband's like, "I got you. I got it covered, right?" And that's sweet when you can at least be real with each other. Yeah. I've got you, babe, or, vice versa. Maybe he comes home and he's like, I've only got 20, babe. I'm done. It was a hard day. And then I love Brene because she's real. She's like, sometimes you both come home and you're like, I got 10 and I got 15. And then she says, how can we not kill each other? And it's like, we're doing pizza tonight. Tonight's pizza night, And again, it's not the healthiest food, but you're real. And I think that's how to be a successful parent, is to be real, real with each other, and just say, it's an area I need to work on personally. Okay, so I talked about my son, right? He does too much screens and it's affecting his schooling. He's acting out. He's having trouble. Because it's easier to just plop him on the screen. If he gets his homework done, we have like basic stuff. Like if your homework's done and you're doing okay at school, then you can have the screen, right? So we try to use that. It can be used as a leverage in moderation, right? But what's the best thing? Like that book Spark talked about is get outside, turn off. The best times is actually when the internet goes down. It's like we wake up from a deep sleep. We're like, hello, what's going on?
Yeah.
And it's actually beautiful. And maybe that's a good way to do it, is like, if all your chores and stuff are done, like, okay, you have your screen time, do an hour or 2, that's great. And then turn off the internet and it will open your eyes. Like, I need to practice that more, as, and then also be intentional. Like I told them tonight, I'm like, hey, we're going to go to the rec center tonight. You got a new swimsuit. We're going to go jump in the pool tonight, And then, like I talked about, I need to get him active in the morning. And even though the kids in that book said they're sweaty, and maybe a little sneaky, they did better in school and they felt better.
Yeah.
And so I need to really lean into that this year. That's my goal, is to clean that up in my house, kind of be a little better, practice a little better on that. So
that's super cool.
One other thing too, there's a great book that we talked about before, The Anxious Generation, and how toxic social media and screen time use are for boys and girls.
Yep.
And just a quick little plug for that one. Really, it's not okay to have smartphones before. Well, some people say 16. Because it shuts them off of community.
Yep.
And community is what they need.
Especially from that puberty, 14, 16, 18. Yes.
So critical. There are a lot of youth now that they can't look you in the eye. They don't know how.
Right.
They don't know how to have a conversation. So.
The dopamine bath that screens provide to folks is just, it's not what we were built for.
Yeah,
we're built for like, there's a reward over there. I got to work hard and I'll get that reward. And the screens just give us a constant bath of dopamine. And then it kills kind of like the drive to go and accomplish things, because you feel like a sense of productivity. Like, I already got rewards from this phone. Like, what do I need to work hard to get other things for? Yeah. So I think the toxic level of these, and the that same author, I believe, wrote The Coddling of the American Mind.
Yes.
And, he did a great podcast with Huberman actually about all of this. Yeah. And they talked to like the suicide and anxiety and depression rates, 150-fold increase from the time we put smartphones in the hands of all our teenagers. Yeah. There's like a time frame there, and they just noticed the increase in mental illness there. And so, I think we need to kind of address it as a society and kind of look at it. And it turns out like the Amish were right, and we probably need to just go back to tilling the ground and eating pie and like, exercising and just staying active and 100%. Riding horses and being awesome. But I think there's so much here and I'm glad we ended with the screens thing, because I think of the things we talk about, it's one of the more poignant, one of the more toxic things that we are. It's hard. It's a society pressure right now. Like, all my teenager friends have smartphones at age 10, 12, and it's a battle to help them navigate those years and put them into sports and exercise and like structured activity things. And but it's super, super important. Of all the things we talked about, probably exercise is number one. And look at the screen situation. Like, what is it doing for you? And I love the vulnerability. I think if we're honest, 100% of us are addicted to screens in some way, shape, or form. Totally. And that addiction is that dopamine hit that is just a constant thing. And so I like to take some dopamine detox time. Like the internet goes down, or my internet goes down, is to take all my kids up into the mountains where there is no Wi-Fi, no internet, nothing. Yeah. And then we forest bathe. We kind of like ground into the earth, and we get them excited about the wonders of the world that we have. About that. Shinrin-yoku, like forest bathing, and just discovering like new things. Just look in the forest and see what you find, and there's some really cool things.
Yeah, we've talked about that too.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dr. Bartholomew, thank you so much for your time today. Yeah. This was really fun. I love listening to just the wisdom and the tips and tricks and pearls and the secret sauce that you shared with us today. It's super good. I hope it benefits our listeners today.
Yeah, totally. Well, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. To our listeners, thank you. Like and subscribe, and hope you learned some good stuff from this smart doc. He's so fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, pleasure.